Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of The Hard Choice. Simple steps for showing up. My name is Brad Draper. I am your host, and I am so grateful to be with you. My heart, oh my goodness, is so full of gratitude and momentum. Gratitude and momentum. Why? Because I practice the act of gratitude every day. Because where you focus, you find. Where action happens, action precedes. It's where my statement, action precedes action, comes from. I am practicing gratitude each and every day throughout the day. In fact, I'm reminding myself continually what I am grateful for. I am texting people, I'm grateful for you. I appreciate you. And this is why. It is not just simply, I love you, the end. But it is also, this is why I'm grateful for you. This is why I love you. This is why I appreciate you. And then two, momentum. Momentum is not a miraculous thing that just happens upon us. We don't just all of a sudden get smacked by the momentum bat and get moving like a baseball across the field. Momentum is built on small, repetitious action. Sometimes a big piece of action can build big momentum, but that can fall off just as fast as it came on. And it takes a ton of energy for that to come on in the first place. But little steps, the whole simple steps for showing up, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be crazy. You can start by reading one word a day, and then 2 words a day, and then a page a day, then 2 pages a day, and then 10 pages a day. You can scale all the way up to a book a day by habit, and it just becomes a normal thing that you do. The other day, I took a big step for my consultancy. I bought the URL. I started that process so I can have that. I can have the marketing and the branding and everything else coming in appropriately as I build my consultancy up. That's a big step. Even though that takes all of 5 minutes and $12, for most people, that might be a big step. And for other people, that will be just a regular piece of doing business. What are you doing each and every day to show gratitude and build momentum? While in this gratitude, and the big piece that I'm doing with gratitude is I'm actually ending one phase or series of my life and simultaneously beginning another. Phasing out of corporate, phasing into all on my own full time. And how cool that is and how grateful I am. Kind of like last week's episode, those skills that you built, being with other people, doing other things, those relationships that you've acquired, they propel you into future things. But as I'm finishing up, I see other people around me also finishing up because this corporation is in a very transitory stage, is probably the best way to put it. They're transitioning to preparing to become even greater, and how grateful I was to be with them. However, my mom used to have a statement growing up. And the statement went like this: hoe to the end of the row. I'm not sure if you guys know what a hoe is in gardening. That's when you have the flat blade and it pulls dirt across to dig trenches, to dig out weeds, to do things. But you have the entire row of a garden, or in a farm, you have really big rows. It may not be 6 or 8 or 12 feet, but it might be a 1/4 acre long type row. And my mom grew up on a farm. And so this statement was very common in my childhood. It was common in our chores. It was common in tasks. It was common in homework. It was common in anything that we did. Anytime there was a spot to stop, my mom would always say, hey, Brad, make sure you hoe to the end of the row. How much that has stuck in my mind. Just like other things, knowing versus doing. That was way early on in this series. If you sprinkle when you tinkle, be a sweetie, wipe a seedy. All right, these different statements that we learn as kids. But hoe until the end of the row. has always fortified how I do things. And that means when you're doing a task, when you're doing a project, when you're doing a job, when you're doing a project, I think I said project twice. If you're doing these different things, you stop when you should stop, when it's appropriate, and when the job is either done or you're at a good stopping point. If you're doing a project that is days, weeks, months, years long, don't just stop because you can. Stop at a good point to where it's good to pick up from. It's not necessarily, oh, I'm gonna make calls. I'm at call 25. I might as well stop. It's the end of the day. It's 5 o'clock. I'm gonna bust out of here. How about you make those 2 more calls and make it to call 25 or call 30 to a good stopping point? If you're in the middle of a project, get to a spot to where it's easy to pick up from. You know where you're at. You have good notes. You have good documentation as to what you're doing and how you got there and to where you're going. While I'm in this phase of my life, while I'm exiting this phase of my life, I should say, I have daily tasks that I do to help other people as an intrapreneur with this company. So often people quit before they quit on a job. They quit before they quit on a project, on a task. They're there, they're doing things, but they're just checking a box. What does that do to your mental state? How does that build you up? Or does it decay you? I would venture that it decays you. Decays the mind, that you are not enduring, that you don't push to the very end. When you set a goal to get 10 clients in the month and you have 5 clients and you have 1 more day, are you still pushing with everything you have to get 5 more clients? Because by the way, it is possible to get 5 clients in a day. It's possible to get 10 clients in a day. What if you had 2 days left in the month or 1 day left in the month and you have 0 clients, but you made a goal for 10? Are you just going to crush that phone, crush the messages on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all the social medias, all the things we have at our disposal today? Are you going to keep going to hit that goal of 10? And you may not hit it. That's not the point. The point is to push to the very last moment and give it everything you have. In the words of Deadpool, maximum effort. You need to give it maximum effort from the very beginning to the very end. And that doesn't mean deplete your capacity at the very onset. That doesn't mean burn yourself out in the first 2 days. You must have a cadence, a rhythm, a pace to which is as much as you can give over the duration of the whole thing. When you're running a race, the pace of a 100-meter sprint is not the pace of a marathon. And one of those things with this idea of it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. I'm not sure if you've ever seen professional marathon runners, for those people that say that. Those guys are running the Boston Marathon, and gals, running the Boston Marathon, they're clipping at like a 7:30 mile or less. Some of those guys are clipping in the 6 mile or less. 6-minute mile, by the way, for the full 26.2 miles. For some people, that's a dead-out sprint. That is really moving. When I say this is a marathon, I'm not saying walk. I'm not saying lightly jog. I'm saying we go, and we go hard. But the pace is held to which you can hold for the whole duration of the race. If you only have a 1-day project, give it your all. Give it everything you have because it's just 1 day. But if you have a week-long project, take everything you have that is being able to be held for the next 5 days. This is not to slack off and say, I'm going to push it off. Case in point, I started my consultancy. I'm struggling today. 3.5 weeks ago. It was about the 7th of August. And when I started, my initial thought was get as many as I can. So I did 5, 6, 7, 10 contacts that day. And that took quite a while, reaching out to these people, conversing with these people, going back and forth with these people. And then I had the thought, you need to hit 100 contacts as fast as humanly possible. And then from then on out, continue the pace. So what did I do? I slammed 100 contacts in about 9 days. By the 16th or so of the month, I had 110 businesses reached out to. And then from there, it's follow up and continue and continue and continue. And it's spider effects. Because you must understand, when you're in sales, and by the way, everyone is in sales, you're selling yourself at all points in time. But in the case of direct sales, you reach out to a person. But it's not just your network. It's not just who you know. It's who they know too. So it branches out like a tree. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's why it's so important to talk to everyone. Because that person you're talking to, you might be like, they're not an ideal client. I'm not going to waste my time. But they might have a friend that is an ideal client. And the more people that know about you and what you do, the more they can push what you do. So how does this pertain to hoe to the end of the row? How can you move the needle a little farther? When you have to make 20 calls today, make the full 20. And in fact, do 21 just for kicks, the power of one more. Stop at a good stopping point. When you got to build a spreadsheet, when you got to shoot emails off, when you need to record podcasts, when you need to write a book, when you need to do anything that you have on your to-do list, go to the right stopping point. Don't just stop because you're out of energy or out of time. Set an appropriate goal. And appropriate means reasonable to your mind. You can see it. Get there. I'm not setting a goal to go reach 1,000 people today, but I will reach 1,000 people. And I have that set in time on when I'm going to get there. You move forward, accomplishing the task to the point that you need to stop, not necessarily where you want to stop. You see across this field, it may be a 10-foot garden, and it might be a mile-long cornfield. And you sit there, and you hoe, and you hoe, and you kick up dirt, and you're sweating your guts out. But you stop when you finish to the end. You don't stop when you're tired. You stop when the job is done. And that is really what I want to land the plane off with this today, is you don't stop when you're tired. You don't stop when your time runs out. You stop when the job is done. And by the way, if you're a crazy efficient person, you have your power list of 5 items, and you bang that power list off by noon, proud of you. Good job. You don't need to kill yourself. You need to get done what needs to be done. Do the 5 tasks, and then you have the day that's free, because that's hoeing to the end of the row. And maybe you might want to set a little bit larger tasks the next day if you get them done by 9 a.m. Things like do the dishes don't count. Do my laundry doesn't count. That's part of being a functioning adult, a functioning human. Having food, having clean clothes, not being dirty. Hoe to the end of the row. And when you do that, you'll find so much more momentum, so much satisfaction, and so much gratitude for all those things that you have. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful that you were able to show up with me today to take this simple step, and then take this simple step of hoeing to the end of the row and applying it in your life. Have this conversation with your friends and your family. Teach them about hoeing to the end of the row. Give influence, positive influence for those people that you love. Share your thoughts, your feelings. Leave me a review. If you find it applicable, reach out to me for consulting. I do procedurals and analytics for companies. Like it, subscribe to it, download it for future listening. Until next week, I love you guys. Bye.